Welcome in, everybody, to the SuperDraft Sunday Study, presented to you by FTN Daily and SuperDraft Daily Fantasy. My name's Zac Graham, aka Kawaisenberg DFS, here with my good friend, Javi Prellezo, also of the FTN Network, and he is our multi-sport extraordinaire. I like to say, Javi, the esports GOAT, helping us also crush the NBA streets here early in the regular season. But Javi, also, unfortunately, Cowboys fan, but
Yeah.
also very sharp at the NFL, and especially with the Super Draft multiplier format that we're going to be talking about today. So, Javi, welcome back. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for that. I owe you $20 for that for the props that you gave me. So that was good. No, I'm doing good, man. Happy Halloween to everybody. Thought about dressing up on stream, but Zach, I'm too old to dress up, man. So happy Halloween to everyone. Let's win some money.
Absolutely. And I know you and I pulling double duty today. We'll be on the FTN Daily NBA stream later on this afternoon. So maybe a little costume party then. I don't know. We'll talk
Yeah,
about it.
maybe.
But we're here for the next 30 minutes breaking down the Super Draft slate. And again, before we get started, I just want to talk kind of about what we're doing at FTN in regards to Super Draft. And this is really NFL, NBA. We've got free Super Draft content at ftndaily.com. And if you haven't played on SuperDraft before, we have a comprehensive site review over there at FTN Daily. So you can go read through that, kind of familiarize yourself with the multiplier game mode and the other game modes that are offered over at SuperDraft. And then you go to superdraft.io. When you get registered and sign up, use the promo code FTN. And when you deposit $100 or more, SuperDraft's going to give you $100 in bonus funds and only a 1x playthrough, Javi, on those bonus funds. So you can turn that into real cash fast. And some of the content that we do at FTN Daily every week, just on the NFL side, our normal third man in the booth here, right? Vlad Sedler does a great slate breakdown kind of later in the work week to really get you ready for the entire slate. I'll put out a Tuesday night video, kind of a preview look at some of the plays positionally. Joe Metz will do a top 5 article each weekend. So we've got a ton of again, free Super Draft content at FTN Daily. So if you're playing on Super Draft, man, it's not just because they pay me to say it, but I really believe that FTN Daily is the place to be if you're playing on Super Draft. So make sure you sign up using that promo code FTN. And Javi, we'll get into it. Right now, we've talked in previous weeks about the Super 15 game mode over on Super Drafts. Kind of a new thing they're doing. We'll get into the multiplier plays here in a minute, but I wanted to share the grid here for this week on Super 15. All right, let me share my screen. And what I'm talking about here, if you haven't played on Super 15 yet, sorry, going through system preferences, allow. Sorry about that. You'd think that I would be ready for that. Got a new computer this week, Javi.
Hopefully it was a Mac, man. That's the way to go.
It is a Mac, and hopefully you can tell that my camera is upgraded. It's helping my internet. I got the Ethernet connection. But what I can't do right now, Javi, is share my screen because I would have to quit my browser to allow that to be shared. So if you head over to SuperDraft on the app, on your browser, or at SuperDraft DFS on Twitter, you can see the grid over there for Super 15. And what it is, if you're not looking at it with me, is a 5x5 grid of players. You probably see these on Twitter or Instagram, any of your social media, where it'll say, here's $15. Javi, build your team, and you've got 5 guys at the $5 tier, 5 guys at the $4, and on down. And so Super Drafts turn that into a game where you can single entry for now. I've heard multi-entry is coming in the near future, but you can single entry into either 50-50s, more cash game style, and they also have GPPs for Super 15. So I was looking at the board this week. I don't know if you got a chance to check it out, but Najee Harris at $4 was really sticking out to me. Obviously, he's getting a ton of opportunity for Pittsburgh. And then down at the $1 tier, I was kind of eyeing Marvin Jones of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Getting a guy like that for $1 with certainly touchdown upside, but maybe multi-touchdown upside in this Jaguars offense is something that I would be interested in rostering if I was playing a Super 15 lineup today.
Mm.
What stands out for you on the Week 8 board?
Yeah, so I don't like much of the $1 guys except for Marvin Jones. So that's a great call by you. But I'm looking more at the $4, $5 range.
Okay.
Last week I mentioned, hey, I don't really like a $5 guy. I like two $4 guys. And this week I do like two $5 guys, but that's tough to fit in there. So for me, I was looking at it and it's like Josh Allen, man. This matchup
Mhm.
for him is just too good. He's the guy that I would really want to build around him and Matt Stafford. There's just two of the easiest matchups in the NFL. I hate to say that because you guys are professionals, but what we're doing here is we're targeting weak defenses. Both defenses that they're facing off against are bottom five in defensive efficiency here. Josh Allen is on another level, and that Miami offense has just struggled. They're better against the pass, but against the run, I mean, they're a bottom five team. So Josh Allen with that rushing upside is somebody that I'm looking at. And then Matthew Stafford, it's against Houston. We target Houston, one of the worst teams in the NFL. So one of those two guys at the $5 range, that's what I would go, and that's how I would start it. And then at the $4 range, the guy I'm looking at is AJ Brown. No Julio Jones, going against Indianapolis here. It's easy. I mean, it's just which Tannehill are we going to get today? That's the question. But AJ Brown, he's the guy that's been consistently crushing. He's the guy that the guys at FTN Daily wrote up as well for SuperDraft. So I like him a lot. His multiplier is great. We'll talk about it in a second. But those are the two guys that stick out for me, plus Marvin Jones. So that's a great call.
Yeah, man, I think all those obviously great plays, and like you talked about, that $1 Marvin Jones kind of unlocks the ability
Mm.
to roster multiple $4 or $5 guys on the Super 15 board this week. So I love it. But we'll jump into the multiplier plays here, right? We can go position by position. Again, if you haven't played Super Draft, multiplier mode, we're not dealing with a salary cap. So that's more your typical structure, I think, in daily fantasy. And so Super Draft does it a little bit differently in this multiplier mode. Instead of salaries, every player has a multiplier, which will multiply their fantasy points as we go throughout the slate. And so you can roster if you want to do a Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs. You want to get Derrick Henry in at running back. You want to get, if he was on the slate, he's not this week, but you could roster a Travis Kelce, a Devontae Adams, all in the same lineup. But those guys are mostly going to come in at like a 1x, maybe a 1.1x multiplier. Whereas as you'll see, as we go through the plays here, Javi, maybe a better idea to mix in some guys with a higher multiplier just to make sure you're getting that balance of high floor, high ceiling in your tournament lineups. And I talk about tournaments. I mean, the 200K red zone, it's got 40K up top. Okay, 40K to first. It's less than half full right now with just under 2 hours to go till this main slate locks. So again, make sure you're getting your lineups in. We'll start at quarterback here, Javi, and I'll start with you. I noticed that we both have this guy listed on our favorite plays, and a good matchup for him today. Much talk around the Philadelphia quarterback room the past couple weeks. Jalen Hurts not performing great, maybe to put it nicely, on the field, but in our fantasy lineups, he's been fantastic. So he's sitting at 1.2x today. Talk to me about both of our guys, Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, no, I mean the main thing here is the rushing upside. That's something that I love to target for DFS, especially for Super Draft here. So Jalen Hurts here, what I like is that he's in a phenomenal spot. Like this is the guy that I want to focus on. You stack him up with Devontae Smith, which we'll talk about later, which is what we want to do. We want to stack our QB with our wide receiver, and potentially two. But Jalen Hurts here going against Detroit, full speed ahead. Do we have to really talk about Detroit? They just struggle both offensively and defensively. They do a little bit better against the pass, but still a team that you can target here from top to bottom. The rushing upside is also through the roof. Miles Sanders went to the IR. I don't think that they're going to go focus on Boston Scott or Gainwell here. So that's why, I think the rushing upside plus the passing upside here for Jalen Hurts against the Detroit Lions is just through the roof. So that's the guy that I really want to focus on. And there's two other guys, but I'll pass it over to you. I don't think we need to, beat a dead horse here and talk about Jalen Hurts, but it's just a phenomenal spot.
Yeah, man, and you talked about it. Like it's Detroit, right? So like I don't know if honestly if Philadelphia is going to pull out a win today. I think Detroit could maybe slide in for their first win
Yeah.
of the season, but there's no doubt. I don't need to repeat what you just said. I'm right there with you on Jalen Hurts. Um, for me, there's also a pivot though, right? Especially if you're running multiple lineups in some of these big tournaments. Right there at 1.2x, you got Joe Burrow, right? Joe Burrow, the Bengals, looking like maybe they're the best team all of a sudden in the AFC North, and they get the lowly Jets today. So you and I both picking on some of the worst defenses in the NFL. We saw the Jets just give up 50 plus points to the New England Patriots, and the Patriots did it on the ground, right? And that's kind of where the Jets have been really getting beat. But Joe Burrow has so many weapons in this offense. And to me, they're going to try to run up the score here. I believe they're 10 or 10 and a half point favorites. He's got Jamar Chase. He's got T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, even Samaje Perine, I think, could get some more action today and just kind of rack up the fantasy points overall for this Bengals team. And, I think if I'm running multiple lineups, I want to get some Joe Burrow exposure and stack him up with some of his weapons. So we can talk about that later. And then kind of my third guy that I'm looking at, Javi, I guess a theme with the young quarterbacks for me this week, but I like Trevor Lawrence, 1.45x. It's going up against the Seahawks defense, who have really not been great. Again, I think maybe putting it nicely this season, and obviously Seattle as a team struggling with Russell Wilson on the IR. But Trevor Lawrence kind of been using his legs a bit more. And again, we talked about we want rushing upside from quarterbacks. So does Trevor Lawrence have the same rushing upside as a Jalen Hurts or like a Kyler Murray who's not in the slate? No, of course not. But we've seen him since week 2 average about 25 yards on the ground per game. He's got 2 rushing touchdowns in that span and a couple rushing touchdowns also called back in the last couple of weeks. So 1.45x going up against the Seahawks. I think Trevor Lawrence is kind of finding his footing in this league, and the Jaguars might not win today, but from a fantasy standpoint and at that multiplier, I have some interest in Trevor Lawrence. But I think you're looking elsewhere, Javi, kind of in that 1.4x range.
Yeah, I'd say, hey, I'd feel comfortable not playing a rookie quarterback for the rest of this season. I mean, I can't emphasize that. I don't think any of these rookie quarterbacks this year are really going to make it. There's some potential here, but Fields, Wilson, Trevor Lawrence. So it's a little risky, but the matchup is very good for Trevor Lawrence. That's a great call out for that multiplier. But what I'm looking at, and by all means, this does not feel safe at all, but I'm looking at Carson Wentz. He's going against a bottom 5 defense here in the Tennessee Titans. I do like a little mini game stack here, which again we're going to talk about here. But Carson Wentz, not a guy that I like to throw out there ever, but at 1.4x, that's the multiplier I'm looking at. And then I think this might be the first week on SuperDraft where I'm stacking a running back and a receiver with my quarterback, and it's because of Carson Wentz. This matchup got a very high total, battle of 2 terrible defenses, but again, it's Carson Wentz, so there's all the risk in the world here. But this is the guy that I want to focus on going against this Tennessee Titans team. So.
Yeah, man. I mean, you look at the total for that game has kind of been rising all week. I think it got up over 50 here in the last couple of days. So I was also eyeing Carson Wentz, but I decided to go with Trevor Lawrence. So I'm with you on Wentz as well. Like I think everybody in that quarterback position, we've kind of narrowed it down to a nice little window there, especially if you're building multiple lineups in these GPPs where the overlay is kind of brewing. That's a nice little pool to start from. So we can shift to the running back position, and I'll go right back to you. You kind of talked about the little mini stack, maybe quarterback, running back, receivers, or are you looking at Jonathan Taylor here?
I am, yeah. At a 1.25x multiplier. The guy's been involved in the passing game besides the rushing game. This guy has just he clips 100 yards in 3 of his last 4 games. He's got touchdowns in 4 straight games, including 1 multi-touchdown, and he's got 3 receptions. Well, exactly, I'd say 3 or more, but exactly 3 receptions in 3 of those 4 games too. So maybe it's a little bit of game log chasing, but again, it's going against the Titans. So with that, that receiving upside as well, plus the rushing upside, the 100 yards that I mentioned before, and the multi-touchdowns, and it just seems like finally they're phasing out Nyheim Hines. I'm not saying that he's completely gone, it's a perfect opportunity for him to vulture some touchdowns here. But in this matchup with Carson Wentz, I love Jonathan Taylor. And then there is a few other guys that I like, but the guy I'm talking about also here, and I think you have it as well, as DeAndre Swift at a 1.45x multiplier. I mean, this guy has been quite the surprise this year. We thought he was going to struggle this year with Jamal Williams, and Jamal Williams is taking over week 1, and he looked like the feature back, but it's the DeAndre Swift show. You know, he does have 11 or more carries, which is not what you want in a feature back, in 4 of his last 5 games, but he's got 3 touchdowns in those games. And the thing that you look at is the receiving upside. He's got 4 or more catches in every single game. Very important to note that. You know, he's been scoring a few receiving touchdowns as well. Only for the year. He's only got 2 for the year, but he had 1 last game. I just think, you know, it's Jared Goff. He looks dumped to his running back. We know that from his career. And it's a good bring back. Like, if you're going to do Hurts stack, you can bring it back with DeAndre Swift. So those are the 2 top guys that I'm eyeing, Zach.
Yeah, man, I'm right there with you on DeAndre Swift. I mean, at 1.45x, like you said it, like this guy's getting all the opportunity, especially in the passing game, because Detroit is down and trying to play catch up so frequently this season. And I think even if that, you know, even if it's more neck and neck today with the Eagles, that multiplier is just something we can't pass up, right? 1.45x for the guy who's averaging almost 7.5 targets per game. Like, you mentioned Jamal Williams at the beginning of the year. Like, as somebody who had a lot of DeAndre Swift in my redraft teams, I'm really glad the way this is playing out, because week 1, I was getting real nervous when Jamal Williams was getting all the touches. But in that same range, I mentioned Najee Harris when we were checking out the Super 15 board, and he's 1.4x on SuperDraft in the multiplier mode this week. I mean, this is a guy I've talked about him multiple weeks now. SuperDraft's not raising his multiplier, or lowering his multiplier, I guess I should say. And he's getting like 24, 25 touches per game in this Pittsburgh offense. And is he exploding every week for 150, 200 total yards? No. But we saw him, I believe, catch 14 passes one week. He's getting 20 rushing attempts another week. Like, this is a guy that's just going to see all the volume. We know Mike Tomlin likes to just run with one guy in his backfield. And so Najee Harris is the guy. They didn't spend a first-round pick on him for nothing. At 1.4x, I can't get away from the usage that somebody like Najee is going to get. And then Cordell Patterson is almost matchup-proof at this point. He's 1.6x, and they're going up against the Carolina Panthers. It's not the easiest matchup in the world, but Cordell Patterson, I believe, 14 carries each of the last 2 games for the Falcons, and obviously playing a big role in the passing game as well. So at that high multiplier, 1.6x, I want some Cordero Patterson shares today, even in what's kind of a tough matchup. I think we got a question coming in here. How many injuries do the Giants have? Ain't playing? I don't know, man. I don't know. But that's on the Monday slate. So you can jump into the FTN Daily Discord, you know, subscribe to the NFL package, and you can talk to us. I mean, Tenacious D. Jones, Derek Brown, all these guys who are crushing the showdown slates. Maybe a better question for them tomorrow. So we'll see in there, Ryan. Anyways,
yeah,
Javi,
you did get called. Sorry,
What's
go ahead.
that?
I was just going to say, you got called out too for your Steelers love. You know, some Steelers bias here. So, Zach, I don't know, man. People are calling you out. Is it Steelers bias, though?
I don't know, man. I don't like 25 touches a game, or opportunities a game, I should say. I don't know if that's bias seeping through or not, but fade Najee Harris 1.4x at your own risk there, Dello. I see you in the FTN Daily Discord. We'll flip to the wide receivers, Javi, and I guess we can just go right back to the Colts. Both of us have Michael Pittman. You talked about Wentz. You talked about Jonathan Taylor. I think T.Y. Hilton's back, though, so make the case for Michael Pittman.
Yeah, I mean, the question is T.Y. Hilton going to make it through a full game? In his first game, he left early because he's, you know, T.Y. Hilton, he's hurt. He's on the down of his career. But he's only played 1 game this year. I don't think they're going to force T.Y. Hilton in there. I didn't see that he's expected to play, but he still remains questionable here. Just given that he's only played a half a game this whole season, I'm not too concerned with T.Y. Hilton. Obviously, you know, there seemed to be some rapport with Wentz when he did play, but Pittman's the guy here. He's just got an amazing multiplier here. He's with a quarterback here in a plus matchup against the Titans here. I mentioned their bottom 5 pass defense here, and I just think that 1.65x multiplier with the upside that he has, it's just something to target here. He's got at least 4 receptions in 5 of his last 6 games. He's got at least 59 receiving yards or more in 5 of those 6 games. He's got multiple touchdowns here. The targets are a little lower than I like, but 4 targets, 3 targets, 7, 8, 12, 12. So yeah, they've been down the last 2 weeks, but he's also had he had one of his best games against San Fran last week, and then against Houston, I think that was just an anomaly. But he seems to be Carson Wentz's favorite target here. At that multiplier, I'll take my chances. I mean, again, if we can see a 12 target game, that's what we want to see. But it is a little worrisome that the targets are down, but it seems like he's the go-to receiver here for Carson Wentz. So I'll take my chances at 1.65x multiplier there, Zach.
Yeah, man. Again, it's the matchup that's real. Like matchup and multiplier combo with Michael Pittman is great this week going up against the Titans. And you mentioned that San Fran game, man. Like I thought he was fine with his fantasy output, like considering the weather in that game, right? We saw him make that one long catch. I think his depth of target has been, or average depth of target has been increasing as we go this season too, which is what you love to see at that high multiplier. 2 other guys that I want to touch on at receiver, Javi. Number 1, Jamar Chase. I talked about my love for Joe Burrow going up against the Jets. And if you like Joe Burrow, I don't know how you can ignore Jamar Chase. Like, obviously, you could get a little different. You go T. Higgins. I don't think I'm touching Tyler Boyd. I don't think we need to get that cute on this slate. But Jamar Chase still sitting at 1.25x. We've seen the connection that he and Joe Burrow have. Obviously, it's been talked about plenty. The former college teammates. Over 200 yards last week, though, for the rookie Jamar Chase. I don't think we're going to quite get that. A repeat performance, I should say, out of Chase, but 1.25x. I think he finds the end zone today against the Jets. So I like him there. And then Mike Williams still sitting at 1.45x. One of, if not the best, I guess Cooper Kupp's probably past him at this point, but one of the top fantasy producers at the wide receiver position this year. I don't always like I would say I rarely like targeting the Patriots defense throughout the years, but I think just Justin Herbert, this Chargers offense, and the way Mike Williams has been playing at that 1.45x multiplier, I would take some shots on him in multiple lineups this week, even against the Patriots. So where else are you looking at wide receiver?
Yeah, I'm trying to stack here this week, but I mentioned Devontae Smith, Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith. It seems like Devontae Smith is the go-to guy. 1.6x multiplier. You don't see that every day. You got the rushing upside of Jalen Hurts. It's not a 1x multiplier, but a 1.2x multiplier. It's fine. The upside's there in this matchup with Devontae Smith. I just love that quite a bit. And then if you, I alluded to it earlier too in the 15 board, but AJ Brown 1.4x, no Julio Jones. This guy's also been on fire. A lot of people are giving up on AJ Brown, and I don't know why, because this guy, especially going against this Indianapolis secondary and this pass defense that's awful, but 7 or more receptions in his last 2 games. If you look at targets share too, 6 or more targets in 3 straight games. No Julio Jones. It's going to open up some space for him. So I like AJ Brown going against these Colts as well at a 1.4x multiplier. And the honorable mentions DJ Moore. We keep seeing the multiple. Yeah, it's not the exploding DJ Moore from the first few weeks, but still, you can't ignore him. He's the go-to for Darnold, 1.35x.
Yeah, probably lower owned in tournaments this week, right? Because he's been down a little bit in terms of his week-to-week production after we saw that huge start to the year for DJ Moore. Let's go to tight ends, because I think it's a really interesting board. I almost did. I did do a double take when I saw the top of tight end. No Kelsey, no Waller, no Mark Andrews on this main slate here on SuperDraft. So Kyle Pitts is at 1x. You got Dallas Goedert 1.05. Mike Gesicki 1.1. Not the guys we're typically seeing here at the top of tight end. So with that, I think there's a lot of good plays down there. You could add in TJ Hawkinson 1.15. Noah Fant's been doing just fine at 1.2. But Javi, I think both of us are looking to higher multipliers at tight end this week. So give me a couple of your targets here.
Yeah, I think we're both on this one. Dan Arnold, 2x. We alluded to it earlier, going against Seattle. It's just a juicy multiplier, and he's got the touchdown upside. So it's the red zone targets that we're looking at here as well. And then the only other one that I'm really, really looking at is Tyler Higbee. Again, I like Matthew Stafford. Obviously, it's not the best to stack Stafford with Cup just because of the multiplier, but you can still do it. Cup could have another explosion game here, but Tyler Higbee, 1.35x against Houston. I don't need to dive into that matchup either, but I'm just looking for matchups. That's what I'm looking at. Matchups with great multipliers, and those are the two that stick out for me today.
Sure. I like the Higbee call. Been running routes on like 85 or 90%
Oh yeah.
of Matt Stafford's dropbacks. We just haven't really seen that huge blow up game from Higbee yet. So I do like that call, obviously, in the easy matchup today, at least on paper. And Dan Arnold right there with you. I don't need to repeat that, but two other guys that I'm looking at, Javi, with elevated multipliers. You've still got Ricky Seals-Jones there in Washington. He's carrying a 1.75x multiplier this week. And as kind of the solidified second option there for Taylor Heineke, excuse me, I like Ricky Seals-Jones at 1.75x. And it's just tough for me to get away from a guy who's getting, over 7 targets a week over the last 3 games since Logan Thomas went out. So I like Seals-Jones. Then, we talked about Dan Arnold at 2x. And maybe here's some homerism coming through. Maybe a little bit. But Pat Freiermuth is at 2x. Okay, Eric Ebron is out. We know Ben Roethlisberger's got a noodle for an arm at this point in his career. So the rookie tight end, to me, coming off before the bye week against Seattle, got 7 targets, caught all 7 of those targets for 50-plus yards. So at 2x, we've also seen this guy in the preseason and the regular season be targeted in the red zone and in the end zone from Ben Roethlisberger. So with Ebron out, I think Pat Freiermuth is primed for a big day at that 2x multiplier. So I think he's somebody that you can run and probably won't be highly owned in these big tournaments. So anything else for you, Javi, at the tight end position?
No, I think we touched on it. Again, it's a pretty limited pool, and those are the two guys that stand out for me, really.
Well, our guy Tim's here. Before we move on to our top stacks, he's got a question. I think I know your answer here. But Tyler Higbee at the 1.35x or Hunter Henry, revenge game, right? He's in New England now and going out to LA. Henry sitting at 1.45x. Single entry GPP on SuperDraft. Which one are you going with?
Yeah, I'm still going Higbee. I just prefer the matchup. I don't trust Hunter Henry. He's gotten some steam too, so I feel he's going to be a little overowned. But for me, I'm going to stick to Higbee. I think that the floor is better. I think the ceiling's better too, so I'll stick to Higbee there, Tim.
Yeah, I think that Hunter Henry, like you said, gathering steam because he's also gathering steam on the field. 4 straight games with a touchdown for Hunter Henry. I think I'm with you though, Javi. I think I'd rather Higbee in that matchup and kind of fade maybe what would be elevated ownership for Hunter Henry with the revenge narrative and how hot he's been. So hope that helps. Tim, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll close out here, Javi, with our top stacks. In week 8 here, where are you looking to stack? We talked about the Colts stack. I'm sure you'll touch on that, but where else would you look?
Yeah, it's the cold stack for me. And again, I'm trying to double stack, but I'm finding it tough with Hurts. But with the Colts, Wentz, Taylor, Pittman, that's what I like to do, and then do a run back. So I like a run back of AJ Brown. We didn't talk about Derrick Henry, really the multiplier. That's the main reason why. But AJ Brown's the one that I like, but here to bring back. If we are going to get a tight affair here, I do like AJ Brown to eat. So that's why Wentz, Taylor, Pittman, AJ Brown, and then for me, Hurts and Smith. That's the second one here that I really like. So we talked about that you can bring back with DeAndre Swift at that 1.45x multiplier, but it is tougher to double stack there, at least from my standpoint. But I think with Hurts's rushing upside, with no Miles Sanders there, I think it's totally fine just to do a single stack here of Hurts and Smith, and then bring back with DeAndre Swift.
That all sounds good to me, man. I mean, I for my stacks, I talked about my love for Joe Burrow, right? Pairing him with Jamar Chase or T. Higgins if you wanted to pivot off Jamar Chase. But then the Rams, Like, I didn't really talk about the Rams too much in terms of the individual players, but if you want a high floor, you talked about them going up against Houston today, right? How many points they're expected to score. I would think they're going to get over 30 here. So stacking Matthew Stafford, again, all these guys kind of lower multipliers, but stack Stafford with Cooper Kupp and then maybe throw some higher multiplier guys around them. You can also swap out Kupp and get some higher multipliers with a Robert Woods or Tyler Higbee as the guy you mentioned at tight end. So that's where I would be looking to start my stacks this week. But Javi, we're out of time here for the Week 8 Sunday Study. The 30 minutes always goes fast. We appreciate everybody tuning in. If you are an FTN Daily subscriber, make sure you tune in to NFL Live. That's going live now at ftndaily.com, hosted by our guy, D-Bro. If you haven't signed up yet for FTN Daily, you can go over, use promo code BEANS. That's going to get you 20% off any package. We love the beans in the FTN Daily Discord. And again, if you haven't signed up for SuperDraft, superdraft.io, use the promo code FTN for that $100 instant bonus on any deposit of $100 or more. Javi, appreciate you being with me again, man. We're out of here this week. We'll be back next Sunday for week 9, but good luck this Sunday. See you guys.